Hi, I'm Alexander Maxim from YouTube. Today we will continue our series about PHP. In this tutorial, we will learn the dates and times. There is nothing almost without the notion of time, publications, comments, etc. Almost all the tasks you can specify it using the dates and the times. Dates in PHP have always been a fundamental issue for developers. How to store, manage, manipulate dates or times intervals. Most developers will say the time stamp. Today we're going to see the function date is not the object date because we are going to learn the objects in the next tutorials, and we also have the time stamp, the function strtotime, and finally the time zone. We'll learn the set and get. Let's start with the time stamp. What's the time stamp? In PHP, to use date, the start was the timestamp. The timestamp is the number of seconds that have passed since January 1st, 1970. For a long time, all this was enough. The timestamp was everything in all languages. We didn't complain too much. The web wasn't too developed. Manage dates in PHP was very common for forums, but was not very developed. With time, timestamp has become longer and longer. Parallel with the development of the web, the use of dates is become more frequent and more complex. Relational database managers such as MySQL or Postgres had already shown the power of a type specific to dates rather than the timestamp itself. In particular, because it allowed to keep only the part date or the part time, hours for example, minutes and seconds. Let's see how it works. To use the timestamp, we will use the function time. This function returns the current time measured in seconds since the beginning of the Unix era, from January 1st, 1970 for GMT. So the time starts from January 1st, 1970 and is in seconds. So the time will return the time or the current time from January 1st, 1970 in seconds. If I want to add 1 minute to my current time, I will firstly get my current time using the time in seconds, then I will add 60, which is 60 seconds equals to 1 minute. If I want to add 1 hour, I will get the time, then I will add 60 seconds, which is 1 minute, and 60 seconds multiplied by 60 minutes equals to 1 hour. So I will form a calculation to add something or to subtract something from the current time. So if I have 1 day, I will get the time plus 16 multiplied by 16, which is 1 hour, multiplied by 24 hours, which is 1 day. And also 1 month, the same thing. I will calculate the seconds, the minutes, hours and days, and etc. 1 year and 1 week is 60 seconds multiplied by 60 minutes by 24 hours and multiplied by 7 days. But minus 1, I will subtract 1 minute from the current time, so I will subtract 60 seconds from the current time returned by the time method. This is the time stamp. Let's see a real example to understand how it works. So we have the current time from January 1st, 1970 is, and I will return this time in seconds. Let's reload and see the result, and the current time is this time. So when we reload, we will get other seconds because it's by seconds. As you see here, the number 8, 9 and 20, etc. This is from January 1st, 1970. So if I want, this is my current time in seconds. If I want to add 1 to this time or to this seconds. So if I need to add 1 minute, I will add 60 seconds to this number. Let's see how we can use it. So I will use echo to print the current time plus 60 seconds. Let's reload and see the result, but firstly I will concatenate it with a BR, and when we reload we will get this number. So now the current time is 364. When we add 60 seconds we will get 424, and when we reload we will get, for example, 376, and here 436, which is the same time but with plus 1 minute, which is 60 seconds. This is the time stamp. We pass this time or the time function or this time stamp to the date method, and it will return the date with the format that we want. Let's now see the date method, how it works and how we can pass the timestamp and return the date with the format that we want. Firstly, the function date forms or returns the date and local time of your server. It returns a date in the form of a string in the format given by the format parameter. The most important thing is that this function must contain a parameter. I mean, you must indicate the display or value returned by this function. The function contains the format as parameter, the format offered by PHP with several characters. We will see the list of the characters and test it to understand them. This function accepts a second parameter that corresponds to a number of seconds since the beginning of the Unix epoch. Firstly, let's see how it works. So we have the date. We will pass the format as parameter, and it accepts also a second parameter, which is the time or the timestamp from the beginning of the Unix epoch, and the format will be like this format, for example L, M, and U. We will see these special characters, test them to understand all these characters, and we have, for example, here D, S, F, O, etc., and this is the result of this format, and this is the result of this format. So we have the day, Friday 2019, and we have here the date with the time with PM or IM, etc. So now let's firstly pass the time to the date function and see the result. So we have the date method, which is hidden. I will use echo to print the date with this format, day, month, and year, with the time or with the current time of my server. Let's reload and see the result, and we have 33/2019. This is the result when we pass this time. If I need to add, for example, one day, in 30, I want to get 31 here, I want to add one day, I will add the calculation, which is 60 multiplied by 60 multiplied by 24 hours, and let's reload, and we have here 31. This is the time stamp, and this is the date. Now let's see the list of special characters that we can put here in the format parameter. So firstly, we'll get the letter D. The letter small d is the day of the month on 2 digits with an initial 0. Let's test the D. So when we enter the D, and let's delete all of them, we will get 30, which is our day. After that, we have the letter small or capital D. Is the day of the week in 3 letters. Let's try it, and I will place the small d using the capital D. Let's read and see, and we have Sat, which is Saturday. So we can use the capital and the small d here, and we will get Saturday 30 March. After that, we have the letter G or small g. Is the day of the month without the initial zeros. Let's try the G. Now I have 30, so it will return 30. But if I have 0, 3, for example, the third day, I will get just 3. But using the D, it will return 0, 3. After that, I have the letter small l. Is day of the week. Text long version in English. Is the day in the week. Let's test reload and see the result. And we have Saturday. The full name of the day. Saturday. But if we use the letter capital D, I will get here Sat, just 3 letters. This is the difference between the D and the small l. And we have the capital S. The capital S is ordinal suffix of a number for the day of the month. In English, on 2 letters. For example, the first, which is ST, second, third, fourth, TH, etc. So we are in 30 when we use, for example, the letter D and then the capital S. Let's reload and see, and we have 30 TH. If we add the timestamp plus, for example, 2 days, which is 60 multiplied by 60 multiplied by 24 by 2, let's reload and see, and we have first, and multiplied by 3, I will get the second, and 4, which is the third day in April, and this is the result. And we have the small w is the day of the week in digital format. Let's try the w, and let's now delete the timestamp. Let's reload, and we have 6. We are in Saturday, is the end of the week, so the number of this day is 6. The array of days starts from 0, which is Sunday. After that, we have the letter small z, is the day of the year, so our day in our year. This is the letter small z, and our day, which is now Saturday, is 88 in this year, which is 2019. And after that, we have the letter capital W, is the week number in the year. The week starts on Monday. Let's use the capital W and see the results. And we have the week number 13. So the first week is in January, then February, and this is the week number 13 in this year. And the week starts on Monday. And we have the letter capital F, is the month, textual long version in English like January or December. Let's use the capital F and see the result, and we have March. So we are in 13 March. If I want or the day and the month, I will use D and 13 March. If I need the day, I will use the small l and Saturday March, or Saturday we can say is 30 March. This is how we can return the format, or we can specify the format returned from the date method. So the date method will return the format of the date, and we can specify this format using these special letters. We can also continue with the month in a numeric format with leading zeros. Let's try M, and when we reload, and we will get 03, which is March. And also we have capital M, the months on 3 letters. For example, when we try it, we will get Mar, which is the March in 3 letters. We have N, which is the month without initial zeros. We have T, which is the number of days in this month. Let's try it. So we have in March the 31 days. We have in February, if we need to see the February, so we have plus or minus 16 multiplied by 16 multiplied by 24 multiplied by 13. or 31. Let's see, and we will get 25, which is the, we can say also it's a month, which is M is 02. So we can do anything with this format, with these special letters. We have also capital L is the year, is leap year. E, which is anti-meridium and post-meridium in lowercase, and here anti-meridium and post-meridium in uppercase. Before using the capital and small e, we will firstly use the hours and minutes and seconds. We have also the G is the time in 12 hours format, and here the capital G, the time with 24 hours format, and here the hours, the small h, we return the time in 12 hours format, and here with the 24 hours format. The I is the minutes, the S is the seconds. Let's try them. So I will use the capital hours and the minutes and the seconds with the small a. Let's reload, and we have 14, 22 and 57 p.m. and if I use the capital A, we will get p.m. like it. And when I use the small hours, I will get 02, which is in the 12 format. After that, we have the E, which is the time zone identifier. Let's try it. So we will return the E, which is Europe Berlin in our server. And we have also the capital I, which is daylight saving time is activated or no. It will return a boolean value 0 or no, or an integer value 0, it means false, and 1, it means true. And we have the capital P, which is difference Greenwich GMT with a column between hours and minutes. For me, I will try it. Is the capital P. Let's reload, and we have +1. So our time is Greenwich +1. And we have T, which is time zone, and we have C is the date. Let's try C, R, and U. And when we use C, then reload and see the result, and we have our day or our date, and we'll use R, which is with this format, and we have finally U, which is the time stamp in seconds from January 1st, 1970. This is the date method. I will give you the list. After that, I have the time zone. What's the time zone? One of the big problems when you want to manage the hours is that everyone on Earth is not at the same time. Between time zone and summertime, you will quickly fall into difficult problems. You're not unaware that on our good old Earth, there are 24 time zones. This range from -12 to +12 through Greenwich. In order to make sure that each of your users visualize your site at its own time, you must set the time zone of your application using time zone of PHP. There are different ways to handle this time zone. Either you set a fixed time zone for your entire application, but only users in your zone will have the correct time. The others will see a time difference. We'll see the set and get functions of the time zone. The set will change the default time zone. If the default time zone is Europe, Berlin, for example, it will be with the time zone that you propose. And the get will retrieve the default time zone from your system to see and fix the problem we mentioned. Let's see how it works. So we have the date default time zone get. It will return the default time zone of the server or of the Apache installed on your server. So the date default time zone get will return, for example, in our case, Europe, Berlin, or Europe, Paris, etc. So it will return the name of the continent and the capital name. And the date default time zone set will modify the time zone by default of your server. So if you have Europe, Berlin, when we use the date default time zone set and we pass the time zone, The time zone variable will be, for example, Europe, Paris. You have Africa, America, Asia, Australia, Europe, India, etc. You can't see them in the manual.php site of PHP. Let's see a real example to understand it. So you have the old time zone is date default time zone get. I will get the default time zone, then I will modify it to date default time zone set to Europe Paris. Then I will use echo to print the new time zone is and I will get the new time zone again. Let's reload and see the result, and we have time zone. The old time zone is Europe Berlin and the new time zone is Europe Paris. This is the time zone, how to get and to set the time zone. After that, we have the strtotime method. What's the strtotime method? This function tries to read a date in US English format in the time string and turn it into a Unix timestamp. Really, the use of the timestamp is a little difficult on all if you want a date in the past, for example. For that, PHP offers this solution. You can enter a date like last year, for example, or something that has a relationship with time, the time indicators we can say, and this function will try to understand it and return the date in place of a succession of digits that it forms the time stamp. It accepts two parameters. The first is the time. It requires specifies a datetime string to parse, and the second is now it's optional, specifies the timestamp representing the current date used for the relative calculation of dates. Let's see how it works. So we have the strtotime function will pass with the date as a string. So for example, when we say now, it will return the current time using the time method, and when we say plus 1 day, it will take this string and return the timestamp depending on this string. For example, 1 day, as we have seen, we have the time plus 16 to see that it's 1 minute, 1 hour, and 24 hours, which is 1 day. So if we say 3 week, we will get the hours with 7, which is 1 week. So imagine if for each time we will use the timestamp, we will do all this calculation form. It's very difficult. PHP offers the strtotime to facilitate the dates and to get what you want. For example, 2 years plus next year, next week, last week, next day, last day, next year, plus 4 hours, last Monday, next Sunday, plus 2 seconds, 3 October, 1st Sunday, etc. So you will enter something or a string with a relation with the time or with the date, and it will try to read this string and transform it to timestamp. Let's see a real example to understand it. So we have the strtotime method. We will use the date method. This is the timestamp as we have seen in the date here, and now I will return this format. Let's reload and see the results, and we have 33 2020. Now we are in 2018, and when I entered next year, this format will be time plus 16 plus multiplied by 16 by 24 by 13 and by 12, and it will return the timestamp here, and it will return here the format or this format. Let's try to use the time at this place. This is firstly the result. So we have 33 2020. Let's use the time, and here we have 60, 24, 30, and 12. Let's reload and see the result, and we have the same result, but here 24, because there is difference between the timestamp and this method. So it's the same thing, so it will return the timestamp. Let's say for example plus 1 day, and let's reload and see, and we have 31. Let's say plus 2 days, and we have here the 1st April. let's say for example here capital S, and we have first operator. So with strtotime we can enter anything we want. For example, last week it will return the last week, which is 18/3/2019. We will for example return just the day. Let's reload and see, and we have Monday. And for example next week it will return something like the second Monday, because we are in Saturday. Let's for example use the day and month and year, or the month with the capital F, and we have here the first operator, which is the next week. Let's say the next month, which is the operator. This is the strtotime method. Today we have learned the timestamp, date method, the time zone, and the strtotime method. Thank you for your watching.